have Ukrainian forces crossed into Russian territory? Just what is going on and what does it mean for the escalation of the conflict? And has Russia and the Wagner Group started the blame game? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. It's May 22nd, 2023. This is your daily Ukraine update. Let's get right into it. Okay, first, of course, as always, guys, you know that YouTube, not the biggest fan of monetizing my content, but that's okay because I know that you guys are supporters at combatvetnews.com. I know that only about 5% of people even come visit us at combatvetnews.com, but it's great. We have all the news stories that I can't get to in the daily updates, all of my YouTube videos on here for free. And if you become a member at any tier, you get access to the members only videos and the room on the Discord. And the members only content is awesome. We take a look at the latest combat videos coming from the front lines, and we have lots of crazy videos from the recent Bakhmut offensive, and we get to see firsthand just how much the training and effort from the foreign NATO support has paid off. So check out combatvetnews.com and become a member. Support what I do today. Okay, the most interesting changes. Let's take a look at the control map. You guys can see we have in Bakhmut very minimal changes to the front lines. It looks like Russia sort of trying to stabilize its positions, especially as they push to capture this administrative building here. But the most interesting occurrence is actually way in the north, way down here, and you can see that this is across the Russian border, right? You can see here's the border with Russia, and they're listing this checkpoint as contested. This is unusual, but when we look over at the news, you can see Russia is saying that Russia says that a Ukrainian sabotage group has crossed the border. All right, Moscow's reporting that their territory was infiltrated, and it's not clear, but it said that the members of the security service were fighting a sabotage group that crossed over from Ukraine. FSB security was taking the necessary measures to eliminate the enemy. However, it's actually the Freedom of Russia Legion that claims responsibility for the attack. Now, it's not clear at all who is the actual combatant in this. The Freedom of Russia Legion, right? Obviously getting looking very geared out whenever they release their propaganda videos. But it's not clear. Are they Russian? Are they actually Ukrainian forces in disguise? It's not clear. Kiev is, of course, denying involvement. And this is important because Kiev, much of its aid that it receives is contingent on this idea that it is a sovereign nation defending its sovereign territory. This is what makes this the level of aid they've been receiving politically palpable. Especially to countries like Western European countries, where there's just really very minimal appetite to involve themselves in regional conflicts. So the fact that there's so clearly an aggressor and defender makes it easy for the public to sign off on these sort of support efforts. But when Ukraine starts crossing into Russian territory, right, you run into this problem of is the juice worth the squeeze, so to speak? Yes, Russia's going to have to devote more resources to internal policing, something that it hasn't had to do up until this point. But it also means that there's a huge risk of a loss of support as Ukraine pushes harder and harder against Russian sovereign territory. Now, this is why they're using this Freedom of Russia Legion, but we've seen this playbook in this region before. As you may recall, in 2008, mysterious little green men who were wearing Russian-issued camouflage and Russian-issued gear just didn't have any patches that said Russia, who claimed to be just local Crimean citizens, showed up at major government centers and assisted in declaring the region autonomous and eventually aligning it with Russia. So when you look at this sort of thing, you know that local forces, there's certainly a precedent for them being actually state-backed. Really interesting stuff. What's also fascinating is to see the propaganda Kremlin's machine churning in response to the capture of Bakhmut. Russian President Vladimir Putin actually congratulated the Wagner Group and the Russian military for capturing Bakhmut. Putin directly attributed the capture of the city to Wagner mercenaries and noted that Russian regular forces provided necessary support and flank protection for the Battle of Bakhmut. Interesting acknowledgement of the Russian Ministry of Defense's limited role in the conflict. Right. And the MOD announced that Russia captured Bakhmut because of Wagner assaults in the city and aviation support and artillery support from the Russian southern grouping of forces. Certainly, Prigozhin would absolutely seethe the idea that the Russian MOD provided artillery support. This is really interesting to see the Kremlin officially acknowledge and praise the Wagner Group. Right. But what's also interesting is that Prigozhin claimed the victory over Bakhmut city entirely for himself and his forces. Not only that, but he said it is, quote, a total lie, unquote, that Russian airborne forces helped Wagner capture the city. He said no one from the Russian MOD was in Bakhmut, which they're saying the same thing. Russian MOD was on the flanks. Wagner was in Bakhmut. Prigozhin Wagner received practically no help from the Russian military, except former overall theater commander Sergei Sorovkin and Russian deputy, for a former Russian general who now commands in Wagner, Colonel Mikhail Ministev. And that basically he is doing the absolute minimum to acknowledge that anyone other than Wagner played a role. This, of course, makes perfect sense. Wagner needs as much credit as possible. And again, an acknowledgement from Putin that he is solely responsible for capturing Bakhmut is a lot. And that even the Russian MOD sitting there and minimizing its own contribution to the effort is pretty shocking to me. And again, a sign of the fact that fewer and fewer people are able to speak out against Prigozhin, are able to oppose his narrative shaping efforts. As we've talked about, this is definitely the influencer war, and we see Prigozhin is just masterful at it, really, at shaping the narrative. Anyway, guys, that's all I had for today. As always, thank you so much to the Colonel tier members of combatvetnews.com. I can't thank you guys enough for your support. And of course, thank you to all of our Lieutenant tier members, numerous as they are. And we hope that you, if you haven't come over and joined already, that you will. Link is in the description. I'll see you guys in the next one.